Bem-vindos à última sessão do dia, né? A nossa famosa e tão
Welcome to the final session of the day, such uh, expected workshop, the collaborative online international working class. It's a pleasure to have Christian Wilhelm with us. He is the person responsible for the COIL course in the Humboldt-University in Berlin. Christian has graduated in social science and coordinates the COIL project at the Humboldt-University in Berlin. Christian's work concentrates in creating international partnerships and promoting innovation and digital and training students to collaborate through without borders. So he helps educators to project experience in inclusive learnings, connect that overcome geographic distance and promote intercultural understanding. So Christian will help us to think together, to reflect, and to help answer our questions about this format of collaboration, this form of collaboration. And today we have prepared a small input, an introduction of what COI is, so we can understand it a little bit better. And then we're going to pass the floor to Frank, who is with us, Robert Stock. He working in a partnership between USP and the Humboldt-University in Berlin, so we can take the advantage that they are here to share how they have translated and how they became owner of this idea. In our virtual environment, we have our colleagues David Sperling and Victor Próspero. David Sperling from São Paulo University. Welcome, David. And Victor Próspero, who is currently as a fellow at the University of Princeton, who are also developing from a so well-known flex fund that Christian will also explain that, which is a development through Flex Fund, which are some sort of funding based on strategic partnerships between USP and Humboldt. Another COIL project. So they are going to reflect on how do we start a project, the time of projection, and if you want, I think Jamie is also present, and he participated in the previous roundtable, and I know that it's already late in Berlin. Let's see how long he can stay awake. So Jamie and I, we do have a project. We finished a COIL project with some sort of a pilot between Berlin and USP for the Technical University and Humboldt. It was some sort of dialogue between two courses. We didn't prepare a presentation, so I'm going to suggest David and Victor, then Jamie and I, we can have this reflection more intuitively and more spontaneously. So Christian is going to explain the format now.
Yes, thank you, Laura, for inviting me, for applying for this Flex Fund, which made it possible to attend this really, really amazing workshop here in Sao Paulo. Being here in person is wonderful, and I already met some people here, and we were already discussing COIL formats, and now I'm really happy to present this COIL idea very briefly. COIL stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. And I'm looking forward to hear about your experiences so far. And I would love to do some brainstorming how Humboldt and USP as strategic partnerships could collaborate on the level of teaching as well. Since I think we are already cooperating in doing research together, that's very common, but universities are, at least in my opinion, more or less for students, and it's very important to bring students together and to work together, especially if you are discussing things like planetary health. So if you discuss planetary health, so you should at least connect some parts of the planet and discuss together. And a special thanks for the interpreters as well, because I feel very honored since I'm the only one who doesn't speak or understand Portuguese here in the room. So thanks a lot for doing this special job for me. Thanks a lot. So I've prepared this small presentation where I want to just introduce you to the concept of COIL, at least my understanding of COIL, and this a little bit bigger project behind the thing. So I'll give a short introduction to COIL. COIL is a project that's settled in Berlin for 9 Berlin universities, and I'll give you an introduction to the general COIL concepts. Then I'll try to show you some benefits, from my opinion, what COIL is beneficial for students, but also for lecturers. And then I can show you some COIL resources which we have developed for lecturers to introduce these things. And then we'll see the COIL case studies, the existing courses between Humboldt and USP. And at the end, we can exchange ideas and hopefully develop and brainstorm for future collaborations between our 2 universities. So what does COIL mean? I mean, COIL means Collaborative Online International Learning. And we have a special project in Berlin. This is called COIL, so the B is for Berlin and COIL Initiative. And it's a project of 9 Berlin universities. The big ones, the big ships, so the Humboldt-University, Free University, Technical University, and Charité. So those are all parts of the Berlin University Alliance. So this means I'm trying to promote this concept not just for Humboldt, but also for the other big universities in Berlin. And the idea behind this project was, so it's funded by the state of Berlin, to promote internationalization in teaching, so that we can offer, or that we internationalize the curricula of our study programs, and to make this international experience, or as we call it as well, international exposure for non-mobile students, so that everybody is able to get this international experience. I mean, many students are not able to go abroad since they don't have the financial resources. Others don't have the chance to go abroad since they have responsibilities for their families and they are locked in the cities where they are studying. But this virtual mobility gives them the chance to get into contact with other academic traditions, with other students from everywhere. And this virtual COIL concept also helps them to develop very important global skills or 21st century skills, since they get used to digital tools and new teaching experiences. And it's also, I would say, a sustainable concept, since it is establishing the internationalization at home. So students don't have to move, students have to travel the whole time, so you have a cheaper teaching concept with internationalization, but also a more sustainable concept that you don't have to travel all the time. And I mean, I'm quite happy to be here, but you can reduce your travels and your flights with COIL concept, since you can open it up for more people than just one. And we also have in our project, so since this is a more bottom-up project, we try to learn from the experiences of our lecturers and our COIL courses during this period of 3 years. It's a funding period of 3 years, so that we set some quality standards for COILs, because the COIL concept is very flexible and we are learning all the time. It's trial and error, and we try to find the best practices, and then we can find some recommendations for, now I'm hearing myself, this is a bit complicated, so that I that will have some quality standards and recommendations for lecturers how to implement a COIL. So here I try to explain the concept of COIL in a graph. So the big advantage I see in COIL is that it's a very flexible design. So you really can adjust it to your needs, to your experience, what you want to do. The general idea behind COIL is that you connect two existing courses at two different universities. So in our case, it's Humboldt or Berlin University and USP. And this has the big advantage that you don't have to think about credit transfer, since the courses stay in the university systems, but also the students stay in the systems. And you're only connecting those course A and course B with this COIL element, which I call COIL collaboration. And you can see it's a collaboration on two different levels. First of all, it's a collaboration between lecturers. So they have to decide which courses do we want to connect, how do we want to connect, how often do we want to meet, for how long time. And then the more important thing is the COIL collaboration between students. And on the left side, you can see like a measurement, so you can start a COIL with 1, 2, 3 weeks, or you can do a COIL together for a whole semester, because, I mean, as you know, semester times between different universities and countries are totally different, and sometimes you only have the chance to do this COIL in a very specific term of time. But the most important thing is that you bring together students from different countries and cultures in mixed groups, and that they work together collaboratively, not just cooperation, but that they really have to talk to each other and to fulfill a task together, so that they have to bring in the different views and perspectives, so that students really learn multi-perspectivity and that they get a holistic approach to a specific topic. So this is, I think, the most important thing. How do you reach this? This is up to the lecturers. So it's dependent on the experience of the lecturers, what kind of collaboration they prefer. You can do it synchronously with Zoom meetings, but you also can do it asynchronous with exchange of emails, working together in Etherpads, and this also lowers the level of the problems of the language. If you have students who are not fluent in English, so they might be a bit resistant to take a course with somebody from Germany and so on. But if you say, okay, you only have to work together for 2 or 3 weeks, and during these 2 weeks you can use IE translations, or you can prepare emails, you can prepare videos, and you exchange those videos and you comment to each other. So this is not a direct interaction, but it's an interaction. And you can probably show us some examples how it works, but there's usually no guarantee that it works. But I think at the end you'll have somehow a result. And it's also possible that you don't have to work together with courses with the same content. So COIL is really up to interdisciplinarity. So you can really connect two totally different courses, and then you don't not only have this intercultural, cultural diversity in you, but also the interdisciplinarity. And here I want to show you a typical structure of a COIL course. So this is more or less a recommendation, so everybody has to do it how it works for them, but in general, so we recommend to do it in 4 phases, so that in the first phase you try to connect the two the two groups of students, so that you have some ice-breaking activities and team-building activities, so that they develop trust to each other. This can happen by video introductions, personal interviews, meetings with Zoom, but they need to get to know each other even in the virtual space. And then on the second phase, you start the comparative discussions and organizing teams so that everybody is on the same level. I mean, if you speak about planetary health, it probably means something totally different in São Paulo than it means in Germany or in France or wherever. So you have to discuss and come together somehow. And then in the third phase, this is the key element of this COIL concept is the collaborative phase where students have to work together on a joint task and have to solve a problem and usually produce a product. And this product can be very different. They can write an essay together. Closer? Okay. They work on a common task and produce a product, something like a video, a podcast, an essay, or different things, or they comment on blogs. So this can look how you want to look at like. And then at the end, so we have a presentation of all these results. You come back together, and you also have a reflection on this COIL journey, what you've learned from each other. But you also have to discuss problems you might have had together, technical problems, personal problems, but that you will have in the end a valuable experience. This develops your personality, but also your academic development. And so yes, the reasons why you should do this, why you should care about COIL, I mean, this is definitely extra work for lecturers, since yeah, so I did nothing. So this is, but I think it's worth it. So at least if you have the chance to enhance your teaching portfolio, you can show what you are able to do. You can demonstrate innovative teaching methods and international engagement. And it's also, I think, a door opener for international cooperation, or to extend your global networks. And this is a very easy way to start international cooperation. And from this teaching, you also can develop common research interests, and then you can go up from teaching to doing research together. And it's, I would say, it's a very nice way to get to know each other, not just starting the big things together, but just starting with a 2 or 3 weeks COIL element in your courses, and then you say, okay, I can work with this person, and now let's do something together because we're on the same page. And it improves your intercultural skills. At least you are forced to it. You'll learn to handle different persons, different personalities, different ways of communication. And this is, would say, a very important asset to COIL, or what's something you experience through COIL. And you have the chance to really innovate your pedagogies, your didactical skills, and try new things, digital tools, different learning techniques. And it's a trial and error, and you cannot lose so much because it's not a whole course, and not a research project. So you just can try new things, and I think it's a fun way to do it, and a very important way for both students and lecturers to offer something like this. And this is the very similar benefits for students as well. They can get a global perspective. I mean, as Laura mentioned, I'm working for international master programs for a long time, and the fun part about my job is, and that's why I love my job, is bringing together students in one classroom, bring together different perspectives, different histories, different stories in one classroom, and this really enriches. I'm a social scientist by training, so it's so important to have different people in your seminars, so that they enrich each other. And it's not also about learning about each other, it's learning together. And this is the important part. And this is something you can do in the next level with a COIL course. So in our program, so the students have to move from each city to the other one. But in a COIL course, you can really have this international experience very, very easy. And during this thing, the students, they really develop their 21st century skills or global skills, why they have to learn to work together in international mixed teams. And this is something they have to do after their graduation as well, since everywhere you have to work together with different people. And it also can increase the engagement and motivation for the students, since it's something new, and I have the experience, students are usually curious, and it's very interesting for them that they get to know new people, and sometimes, or this is also my hope, that sometimes students who are hesitant to go abroad, to study abroad, can use a COIL course as this door to a real international experience when they can go abroad and study abroad. So this is the first step for them to go outside their own country. And of course, it makes them ready for a career afterwards, since they have this international experience, which they need in future. And as such, we have this COIL project, and we started to develop some support resources for lecturers and for students as well, so that we make it as easy as possible to introduce this COIL concept. For example, we have some really nice how to do videos, how to do COIL videos. I think in total we have 7 videos where you have also some step introductions, how to do it, and you can find them on YouTube. And if you like them and want to get to know more about it, we have also developed a self-learning course in Moodle, and this is accessible for everybody. So this is hosted on our Moodle at Humboldt, but everybody can register with any email address at this in this Moodle course and can have this. I think it's a 6, 7, 8 hour course about COIL. So if the short videos are not enough for you, you really can get a deep dive of COIL and how to do COIL in this online self-learning course. And then especially for students, because we think that intercultural or cultural learning is very important for students, that they can that they get to know how to handle different personalities. I mean, this is not just important for COIL, this is in every classroom. It's very important that people are different. So you have extroverts, you have introverts, and people who love more structure or people who love chaos. And if you work together, you have to handle with them. And therefore, we have developed with a professional serious game where people, where the students can play it, and they have to handle different personalities. And at the end, so they get somehow a self-reflection: what kind of personality are they, and how to handle other people best. And this is something we offer, all of our students here, and you can find them on this homepage. But we don't only have those digital resources. We also have people like me. So I am responsible at Humboldt, and if you prefer to collaborate with other universities, so at each university we have a person responsible for COIL courses who are willing to help you to find collaboration partners at a university or at a institution. Also it can give some didactical advice how to implement a COIL course best. And at the end, so I hope that I could convince you that this is a really nice concept, and I hope you're willing to join the COIL revolution, and that we can build up some more deeper collaboration between our 2 institutions. And I'm happy to take any questions, and obrigado for your interest in COIL. And you can contact me anytime. And now I'm interested about your experiences with COIL courses on those kind of collaborations. And that's it from my side. Thank you very much. Obrigado.
Nice. Thank you, Christian. Very nice. Thank you, Christian. Obrigada. Estou olhando para você.
I'm looking at you. Do you believe you can take a brief input by Frank and also the colleagues, David, Victor, Jamie, and I? We could share a little, and then we can get into discussion stemming from these examples. Or do you have any pressing questions? Okay, so I'll give the floor to Frankie.
I'll talk English. That's cool. Thank you. Just get the remote control here. Thank you for setting up the presentation. Thank you, Laura, for organizing. Thank you, Christian, for finally explaining to me what we are doing. because, yes, so I will represent a group of three. Freya Frese, Robert Stock from Humboldt-University, Freya Frese from USP, Sociology, and myself. We have set up a project and received a Flex Funds funding, and we want in the next semester to start to bring together cultural history from Humboldt-Universität and sociology represented by myself, and bring together two courses at USP and Humboldt. So I think we are in that frame. And the title or the topic is all about homemaking in toxic coastal zones. So it's about mangroves, and mangroves as multi-habitat, multi-species habitat. And this is what we want to develop around our project. So we received this Flex Funds. And I think I'm not going to repeat about this administrative structure. It's exactly that. We have received some money, some funding to set this up. I would just immediately go into a little bit about the topic. I think this would have fit in other panels during today or yesterday as well. So learning with mangroves. So as most of you know, there is a big presence of mangroves here in Brazil. Not counting these numbers, mangroves are super important as CO2 sinks and also for biodiversity, and they can also fortify the coast. So this is in general the topic we are working about. But what is super interesting from a cultural history and a sociological and anthropological perspective is that here in Brazil and other places as well, the mangroves have been a very importantly historical place also for people to make a living, talking about quilombos, but also today as in the defense of biodiversity on the one hand, but other conflicts as well, urbanization and industrialization. So that is in general the topic we are working about, and yeah, the threats are invasive species, urbanization, expanding into mangrove areas, always limiting and reducing the mangroves, and especially industrialization, toxic waste, and diverse forms of pollution. So the case study will be in Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, and possibly the state of Bahia, where we can visit. We have brought some images from here. This is Cubatão, and one of the biggest or first refineries of Petrobras in Cubatão. Up there is a photo I took 3 weeks ago, and below that from almost the same angle 70 years ago. So not too much has changed actually, but when you look closer into the plants, of course, a lot has changed. So like looking at this landscape from this perspective, hardly anything has changed. But yeah, if you look closer, a lot of biodiversity loss and threats. So this is why we think across scales perspective is super interesting to look into the very small, the tiny bacteria, plants and all that, but also look at coastal landscapes and the changes we are living. So it's also importantly to look across species as indicators, to look at crabs. This is what we want to do with the students, and to look at plants. Always repeating, we are not biologists. We are always looking at that as cultural historians, sociologists, and anthropologists. Yeah, so this is what I've said already. We have started, and the filmmaker is out here. Many of you have met him because you made interviews. Lucio Teles, he and another anthropologist, Camila Pirobon, and I, we have started to produce some material that we want to use for the COIL, which is a short video. So we have about 1 hour or 2 hours of video material that we can use. And we're currently producing a short documentary film of 8 minutes, but this will be a part of it. So we have a lot of interview material and images already produced that can be used for the COIL. And the question then later on is how we can do that. Yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I think, yeah, I brought this short video. This will be, just to give you an example, we can see here a traditional way of crab fishing, and what our interview partner, Raphael, in Magé, which is in Rio de Janeiro, at the Bahia Guanabara, is trying to do here is find a crab in the water, but actually, as you can see at the end of this fragment, he's not able to find one. And this is also because, as he explained in the interview, that the behavior of the crab, the ussa, the caranguejo ussa, the crab, has changed due to climate change, due to warming. This crab is now earlier than before moving to upper parts, to drier parts of the mangroves. So he, as an association, as a fisher, is actually contributing a lot of, let's say, even natural science insights about the behavior change of crabs due to climate change. We have this here in this short interview excerpt here, and this will be the kind of material we want to present to the students and make the students reflect on, both in Berlin and here at USP, so they can work on that. That's us, Freie Fräse, Frank Müller, Robert Stock, us three, as you can see, an interdisciplinary team of teachers at USP and Humboldt, and the anthropologist I mentioned, and Lucio Telles, the filmmaker and artist. And yes, further collaborators, Jamie Baxter, who you already know, here, and Laura, obviously. Yeah, so this is basically it. We are preparing a course for the next semester. We want to produce learning material together. We want to reflect on methodological approaches, and we want to discuss theories together. And what is our basic idea about this is that we are going to contribute to an existing page that Laura will also talk about, and possibly Jamie, the riparian struggles page, which already exists. And we want to motivate students to include the case of mangroves or different cases, use their methods to expand data. That can be video material, but this can also be archival researches and insights, and to expand this platform together. So that's basically our idea. Yeah. So how can we trigger this learning is my question, and what platform or what technology is best suitable for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. Fantastic. I think it's a really inspiring presentation to see how this can be put into practice with a very concrete case. I think it's also a perfect lead over. I mean, maybe we are a bit biased here in what we will be presenting, because actually David and Victor and Jamie are all part of this Riparian Struggles project, which is the platform, the website you just saw. It started as a result of a design initiative that Jamie and I have applied for, and we got a project which is called Riparian Struggles and connects Jakarta, Berlin and São Paulo. And from this we built this platform which is called Riparian Struggles, and now we are aiming at expanding this platform to accommodate some of the material that we have generated. First Jamie and I with our initial COIL project, and now also Frank and Robert, and also David and Victor. I'm noticing I'm speaking English. The day is long today. But I think everybody understands me here. Yeah, just to lead over then to Victor and David. I'm not sure which language you have chosen to speak. And you have also prepared something, a little presentation, I believe. So please feel free. And then Jamie, maybe we can come in and just share some of our reflections.
Boa tarde a vocês. Com esse cumprimento eu já.
And everyone, and by greeting you, I say I already show what language we chose. Laura, thank you so much for your invitation. Thank you for inviting us to be with you. We prepared a very brief input. I suppose you're very tired due to these 2 days of activities. Unfortunately, I was not able to be with you because I'm in a different campus in São Carlos at USP, and Victor is in Princeton, right, Victor? Yeah, that is it. So this encounter, this workshop focused in collaborative teaching modes, we have a proposal here, also funded by a flex funding by Humboldt-University, and a dialogue between USP and Humboldt in a specific project. And it is named Matters, a digital platform for teaching collaboration between you and USP, with Claudia Moraes leading by Humboldt University. Claudia is the coordinator of the Cluster of Excellence Matters of Activity. Me here with Laura, Victor Próspero, and a very interesting team among those, Lucio Teles and Kaká, who are video makers and work really well with the digital media. In this strategic partnership launched by Humboldt in 2024, what was the goal of our proposal? The creation of a repository that will be linked to the site, the website that Laura just mentioned, in which we will place material. We will make a audiovisual, a multimodal production of experiences of work with a very specific theme that has clear links with what has been worked on in this table and the previous tables. In the specific case, the theme of Zonas Ribeirinhas, this theme dialogues with research that Jamie, Laura, and ourselves, too, we have been realizing. And they include, amongst other themes, a concept of practices of planetary health, the thoughts and practices that include worlds that are not only human, and also the multimodal mapping. Specifically on the platform, we are organizing it according to 3 modes. There are 3 mapping thinkings and breedings of the territory. We can call it mapping, walking, and evidencing, or they all have 3 needs, but they articulate, they have to do with each other. These 3 pillars have a dialogue not only with our main theme of interest for this platform, but also zooming out to this whole project of research. And there is a specific question. If on one hand we speak of collaborative teaching, it seems to me that in the fields of architecture, urbanism, geography, urban sociology, and so on, it is fundamental to read and to learn from territories. How can we associate the learning, the collaboration from afar, that in a way has its own territories, but it's not a single, doesn't belong to a single territory, with the spaces that these co-participants inhabit? And how can we learn one from the others about the other territories? So it seems to me that there is an important challenge, not only for the COIL territories as a whole, but also for our research project as specifically. Here I show you these images so that we can clearly see the 2 teaching modes that we already know. From afar, in which we use the tools that are helping us here, Zoom or Meets, And to the other side, you see the board in which we build the references, the elements for reflection, and we can categorize the collected material. To our right, we have what we call the case study of the territory, with its sturdiness and a different way for the researcher, professor, or student place themselves facing the learning process. They are physically present in the territory and they live the problems in the territory. So how can we associate both worlds? One is the digital collaboration and the concrete reality, the reality that occurs in a place, but not necessarily in a different place, but can be complementary. This group of images is meaningful, and it illustrates many actions that we've been taking, not only us, but Laura, Jamie, and others, as the ones we have here. And I'll invite Victor to give you some context on the images, and then we can continue. Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, David, for inviting me to the floor. I will be brief. I believe Davi already mentioned what's essential in these methodologies and the essential on the combination of the online and the in-loco actions. I believe this interaction is fundamental for us to have active and concrete learning processes relating the methodologies that he showed, mapping, walking, and evidentiating. There are many possible cases, and this is one of the cases that they used for their project, and this is where I meet the project beyond the University of São Paulo and the collaboration via the university. That is the encounter of the university with the collective movements and the community. In this case, in the Bexiga neighborhood in the center of São Paulo's city. With the collective named Saracura, that since 2019 have been working with very safe practices to map, to walk and evidentiate. They're mapping the waters that are still very present in the city center. They are living history through a mansion in the city center and observing the population that lives there. And they evidentiate what other landscapes that were there before the buildings. And this has to do with the walking aspect. The collective always took other groups, schools, and even demonstrations to walk through the area so that they could evidentiate where the river actually passes. There's also a picture of a water testing that Lucio also filmed. And these are things that help us compose the material in the platform. And I believe there is great potential if they're shared with the students of different places, sharing the experiences on different territories. So this is a case, an example in which you see the different layers that end up being evidentiated, the oral history, the archaeology with the findings of the Quilombo do Saracura and other findings. I believe, Davi, we can see the other slide. This is the project Laura mentioned that connected Berlin, Jakarta, and São Paulo. The project Salve Saracura was connected through the mapping of the ground, and it's very well developed. And that was a very important moment for us to connect with experiences in Berlin as floating university, with the people in Jakarta who work with looking at the quality of the water. So I believe there is huge potential that evidentiates this connection between students, as we said. about the COIL. It's the possibility for students to connect themselves through their contact with the territory with a very concrete survey. And for me to add one last thing, in this relationship of community, territory, and they're very important in the Brazilian university through extension. There's always this side of learning, but also the works. They collaborate and strengthen the collective movements that happen outside of the university. So if you can use that to establish the teaching practices, that's very important too. And I'll invite David back.
Just to summarize, we have a very fast input. I bring you this image. You might know. It's not new. It's from 1964. It was like decades ago that Paul Barron does. And we are in the University of Technology. The university, that's the beginning of the internet. So what he shows here is that from some points located in 4 diagrams, the points are the same place. How can we create a centralized network, decentralized network, or distributed networks? With this diagram, we can think not only in a universe, a globalized world, slash planetary logic, but what are the points that are taken into account? What are the forms of connection between these points? And I think that's very important for us to think COIL plus the learning in the territory. It can have a more vertical structure or structures that are really well distributed, in which in each point they have their uniqueness, but they have relevance for the construction of the network. So, and with that, I'll finish my presentation. I think this is more than the result, the outcome, but I think it's more like a challenge. So thank you, Victor and Fran,
for sharing your insights. I'm looking at you, Jamie. I switched to English just because it makes it easier for me to interact with Jamie directly. I don't want to say too much because I really would like to hear from you about questions and also from Christian. Maybe I can just add to what Frank has shared, and then also David. Hello, it's time to go to bed, huh? Wow, time has passed when you see the. Yeah, I just wanted to share that I think I said this to Christian before this week also, and we invited, besides Agnaldo, who is here with us, who has a impressive experience with international teaching and learning from USP perspective, a colleague at USP. But we also yesterday invited a representative of the Centro de Cultura e Extensão, of the Culture and Extension courses of the University of São Paulo, because I think what you all stressed in a way, and particularly then also in David's and Victor's presentation came out very interestingly, is also this potential of the COIL to incorporate exactly this kind of learning that goes beyond also the classical university classroom experience, right? So if the idea originally is to connect internationally, then you have also this potential to, because you are already opening up, as you said, thinking outside the box, so you can really also connect this kind of experience that is this bringing, interacting with knowledge that is non-academic also. And I just want to maybe quickly do this teaser, what we did, Jamie. We were also working on bodies of water because we have this joint interest in riparian struggles, how we call it, in urban contexts, all of, or urbanization, let's say, conflicts. And Jamie and we were very interestingly also different because we always make this joke about Jamie being an urban designer and I'm an urban anthropologist. And then I was teaching a class on feminist concepts of care and repair and healing, and Jamie was teaching a studio on the Berlin aquifer. And then actually what we did very easily was we built up between our two courses a system for the students to communicate. We called this planetary correspondences, no, Jamie? And
multi-species correspondence.
Multi-species correspondence, and it was actually a way of a pen paling almost. So we went back to this. I think it was Jamie's initial idea to go back to this idea of exchanging letters, really physical letters, which we sent between our students. And it was a very interesting way of also, I think, confronting some, at least from my perspective, Jamie, to confront also ways of knowledge making, because for my students, all of a sudden, I mean, usually it would be the designers in Jamie's studio who were projecting and making plans maybe for solving problems. This is not how Jamie does his work, I know, but this is what you would think of such a studio. And my students, all of a sudden they became the critical pen pals for this design studio people. So they were actually from, let's say, also in this way, from a position in the so-called global south, were actually giving a critical feedback to a bunch of designers which were actually not as Western as you would imagine, because there were many students from South America also in Berlin, yeah. So it shouldn't be too dualistic as we think it, but it was a very interesting way of breaking this up. So this is what I wanted to share quickly. I don't know if you have anything to add, Jamie, to share.
No, I think that was a good summary. I mean, maybe one point which sort of chimes a little bit with what Christian was saying earlier about the kind of experimental component of the COIL. I think that's something that we can all kind of see in many of these collaborations, and I think the COIL worked well for that, and allowed for that sort of experimentation and spontaneity as well. I mean, I think that the letter writing also grew a little bit out of the kind of failure of technologies within this COIL system, you know, like trying to put, I had 30 students, I think Laura had about the same, trying to huddle around a laptop or a Zoom and sort of taking it in turns, and somehow it was all very awkward. Sorry, my son's talking in the background. Would you mind being quiet, you guys? Thanks. They're wanting to contribute as well to the conversation. So yeah, it sort of grew out of this kind of sort of technological kind of breakdown, and it was quite nice. It was quite refreshing to go back to this kind of letter writing, and again, chiming with what Christian said, as a way of dealing with language as well. We sort of ended up kind of performing this difference, you know. So the letter writing allowed whatever language to be communicated in, and then we sort of tried to speak them and perform them, and sort of went with the sort of awkwardness of the communication, and it had a peculiar effect, which when I talk about these COILs at TU Berlin, I like to reflect on. It kind of, you know, often you try and break the ice and you try and kind of make everybody feel comfortable, but actually somehow by really exposing the awkwardness of it, it allowed for certain other sort of relations to build, I think, between the students, which was rather fantastic. And then the students, even independently, still continued to write letters to each other outside of our kind of academic exchange. So and I think they really found some solidarities between each other. So, you know, I would say that, and also maybe a final reflection on David's diagrams there at the end, which I thought were very nice. These kind of 4 diagrams, and somehow you know, this sort of constant tension to sort of try and centralize a network around a particular point. I think this is an ongoing battle, right, an ongoing struggle, but somehow the final drawing, this much more distributed network, you know, somehow you can almost imagine the COILs along with the projects, along with the other bits along the way, are kind of points within this net, you know, to make this kind of rich ecology, this rich kind of dense web of relations that I think of which COIL is one part. But I think this, you know, this has been an ongoing sort of 4-year collaboration between us in different constellations, and I think that there's a rich web that we're kind of sowing here, which I think has been really productive, and COIL's played a part in that for sure.
Cool. Thanks, Jamie.
Well, I mean, this is something you just said. So I think as soon as you open up your classroom, so it's kind of a Pandora's box you're opening, so that you're not just connecting with other people in other classrooms, but then you get the idea, okay, maybe we should go outside and get their knowledge as well. Since if you think of this multi-perspectivity and that it's worth it and it's very important to have it, then it's an automatism that you try to get as many perspectives in your classroom, and this means from out of your classroom in your teaching. And so this is a door opener for something totally new, and something totally new means also experimenting and try and error, and this means somehow development as well. And so I think that's a good start from this low level, and then we don't know where it will take us, but I think it's a nice and important journey, and you'll get something back, and the students will get something back. And something you've already just mentioned, Jamie, that also that's what I was told is that after those COIL collaborations, some students, not all of them, but some, they stay in connection as well. So this is also a kind of sustainability that is not like in Berlin, so you go to the same seminar and afterwards you go to different clubs and you meet once a week. But through those calls, through getting to know other people from other continents and other countries, so you can have a new connection, and this is also sustainable. Yeah,
Vamos chamar de rádio.
Would you like to step in with questions, maybe? In Portuguese.
Arnaldo, do you want to show your? I mean, this was a perfect call where we're talking about on Monday, and I already told Laura about it, but our international colleagues, maybe you can.
Acho que está funcionando, ok. Então, bom, boa tarde e boa noite.
Good afternoon for those who are online and far away. I'll try to summarize. I'd like to thank the opportunity to be able to establish this conversation, and I hope that they can foster other initiatives. The experience, very briefly, was of an online course about global media education between Finland and Hong Kong. I was invited to teach one class to take the perspective of South America to our colleagues, but I had already an experience of collaborating in the area of health, Japanese project, and I took this experience of dealing with media, with the media experience in Africa, but also in South America. And this year it worked because we offered this course at a certain time that allowed the students of Universidade of São Paulo to participate. The greater challenge, as I mentioned, is that the course is online in real time, so synchronizing the colleagues that were teaching from Canada, Brazil, Africa, Finland, Hong Kong, Japan, and South Korea, and the students from Macau, Azerbaijan, South Africa, Tanzania, Lesotho, Cameroon, Brazil, Ecuador, and Colombia. We managed to connect the time zone. It was 6 in the morning in Canada, 8 in the evening in Japan. Everybody online for 2 weeks, 3 hours per day, and doing the activities. So those were online activities to bring this topic, dealing with digital media in different contexts that are crossed by different regimens, And we ended these past few weeks with 10 meetings. They were supposed to finish today. There was a lead time to deliver the last challenge, but due to the problems that we had to postpone, and some moments were shared. Others we managed to have some online activities, analyzing materials, audiovisual, and at the same time that we have this global perspective to preserve the cultural aspect of production that they do, to teach different contexts or form new professors. The initiative is to have another one in September, favoring the Finland time zone, now including South America and Africa, because they called it global, but it was global from Asia and Europe, but not the South, the global South. So it was very interesting. It was a challenge to our students. Language was English, but using AI tools to be able to deal with this topic. So the idea was to be able to add new participants, and it started the students, they requested a different course. They demanded that, expanding the experience repertoire, intercultural one, and expanding it to other partners. Awesome, awesome. I'm from the School of Education here at the University of São Paulo.
I've ever heard. I mean, it's impossible to do it more global than you did.
Do you have questions? Do we have any comments or questions that you would like to share? Samantha. Pode passar o microfone. Da tradução.
Sim, mas eu não tenho nenhuma pergunta, assim.
Per se, but I found it awesome to be able to put together different time zones and have this dialogue. I remember a research from a Colombian researcher. He wanted to talk about urban panorama. So he managed to connect 13 Latin American cities. And in every city, they have connected research from different areas. And here we have at the Museum of Contemporary Art, but in other places was psychology or geography. And they have a very specific methodology, which was visual records from the city. We still had printed magazines, so we have printed materials and questionnaires. And you have this book, Urban Imaginariums, that's how they call it. When you were talking about a virtual course, but it reminded me of this connection that involved different places. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I don't have other questions, but that's cool.
Thank you for sharing all your experience with me. So, I mean, I just had this theoretical input, how it could be, and you showed us how it works. And I had the impression that it works very well, and it is very important to continue those collaborations. And hopefully, we'll stay in contact and we'll foster this collaboration, this strategic partnership between Humboldt and USP by teaching together as well, since the students are the main parts of the universities, at least from my perspective. And hopefully we'll do something together. And this is amazing what you are doing already. So thank you for sharing your experience with me. And thank you, Laura, again for organizing this panel, this workshop. This is so, so, so good. It's really nice. Thank you so much.
Muito obrigada, Christian. Obrigada. Eu acho que é muito importante ter você.
Important to have you here with us in person. All the connections that you had at USP with our colleague Agnaldo here. We had met and we lost touch, and these networks are so important to strengthen the collaborations between Berlin as a whole and our famous alliance, University Alliance, and USP. And I think that this week I will share some gossips with you, but many important things happened, and I hope that you will make these collaborations, everything that you've have been doing, and as Christian mentioned, and Agnaldo did as well, that it generates more work to us, and it's very important. And for those who is trying to support this collaboration so they can be more sustainable. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. It was awesome.
Okay, good. And see you soon in person, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.